G'day, cheers. This here is my all grain, my version of a New England or NEIPA. Cloudy, hoppy, fruity. It's probably a touch more bitter than some of the commercial examples, but that's the way I wanted it. Not much more though, I don't think. And it's very fruity. Now, what I'm going to do today, because I've had lots of requests for it, is try and figure out a version based around a Cooper's Pale Ale tin. I didn't think there was much way we could just do a steep, so we're going to do a mini mash, but I think that's good, and it's good to learn about mini mashing, and just don't think of it as a mash. Think of it as a steep, and you won't worry about it, and everything will go smoothly. Hopefully, if I get all the numbers right at the end, we'll only be just using the tin, the 500 gram pack of light dry malt. We're going to use oats for some of the cloudiness. Now, get quick oats, the ones that have been cut up. Make sure the ingredients only say, wherever it says it, 100% oats, that there's no flours or anything like that in there. Quick oats, they're the best ones to get. That's the same with all grain brewing, by the way. I'm going to use a different yeast. Most people would use a London ale yeast or a US04. Personally, I'm not. And I didn't in my original one, my all grain version. I just use 05. It's what I like, and it's what I always have on hand. I've always had issues with 04. I know it's popular now, but anyway, if you want to use 04, you can. You could probably even use the Cooper's yeast. It's a cloudy yeast anyway, isn't it, that people like to drink. I don't particularly like the taste of the Cooper's yeast. That's totally personal. The other thing we're going to need a lot of is hops. You're going to need a lot of hops. Probably 200 grams worth of hops. You could probably cut it down to 160 and still get a pretty hoppy thing, but I'll say 200 grams of hops. You could even up it. But most of them would be the C hops. What you choose is up to you, but your Citras and your Cascades and your things like that are really nice. And I like to add, they're the citrusy type hops, and I like to add a little bit of pine in there too, maybe some Mosaic or something like that. But that choice is up to you. You could add some Nelson. I'm not a huge fan of Nelson. But the hops are up to you. I wouldn't go all piney. I don't know if that would work very well. But concentrate on the citrusy style hops. If you want to ask me about any hops you should use, or if you're thinking of using, don't be afraid to ask. And although we are doing a mash, I'm going to keep it down to one of these small pots. This is a 7.6 litre pot. You can get a big W. They're only tiny. They're very cheap. I think they're about $10. I haven't looked for a while. The 20 litre, the 19 litre ones are $20. I think these are about 10. Anyway, in a tiny little pot like that, you can get anywhere. It's not very big. It looks big when I hold it out, isn't it? It's tiny. It's going to be like a mini brew in the bag. So as far as using it, what bags we're going to use, these are easy to get. You can get these from Bunnings, the paint strainer bags. I'm not sure what size this one is. Hang on. That one is that size. That's the 4 litre. This must be the biggest size I've got here. They come in two sizes. I don't remember the size of the other one. Will the 4 fit? Actually, I think the 4 fits perfectly too. So if you get the smaller ones, I'm not going to use the smaller one today, only because I haven't washed these bags. I like to wash them or boil them or give them a soak in some, sodium bicarbonate or some sort of cleaner to give them a clean and a wash and a good rinse and a boil, just to make sure that you haven't got plastic goop on them from when they're made or whatever. But I'm going to use this slightly bigger one, so this would be the next size up. It might be 10 litre paint strainer bags or something like that. They only had 2 last time I was there. So it was either those 4 litre ones, and this today I happen to be using the big one, but the 4 litre one fitted much nicer than this one does. Grain wise, now there's not much in there. There's the only bucket I had. There's a kilo, 1.4 kilo of pale malt in there. an ale malt, I should say. That's a Gladfield American ale malt. You could use any sort of 2-row or anything like that, any sort of ale malt. And I did put 100 grams of a Simpson's medium crystal in there. That's up to you. You can put a bit of crystal in there if you want. I just like a little bit of colour. And that's about it for that. And I'm going to be using 350 grams of this in it. When I get to the recipe, I'll help out the people in the US with, you know, imperial sizes. Don't be scared of mini mashers. They're very easy. I'm going to just treat this like a steep. I'll show you anyway. We're going to start with 5 litres of water. Well, Beersmith said 4.8, which is just over a gallon, about a gallon. I'm going to round it to 5. There you go, 5 litres. A couple of inches from the top. Am I going to fit the grain in? I hope so. For striking temp, we want to get this water up to, I'm going to guesstimate here, probably about 73 degrees. 72, 73. I want to, because we're not continually heating this mash to keep it at temperature, or steep, as I'm going to call it, I want to start on the high side. By the time I mash in the grains, the water temperature will drop when I mix the grain in. And I want it to start about 67, 68 maximum sort of thing. And then by the time it sits there for an hour, the mash should be well and truly done. I might try aim for 67. That it's going to be a bit of a guess. I haven't done this for a while. Where are we at? 60, 58. Won't take long. You do need a decent thermometer. It doesn't have to be digital. I don't know if you can pick that up. That is just about to hit 73 degrees. I'm going to go with that and we'll see how we go. So I'm actually going to turn the heat off. Now I'm just going to put the bag in. So I said this has been pre-cleaned and everything. Grain, is this going to fit? I hope this is going to fit. Doesn't look like it. Try and not get those dough balls which I've just made by being a bit slack. Oh, massive dough balls. Massive dough balls. I'm just going to put the rest of this in. I haven't put the porridge in yet. I just want to get this grain mixed in. You could put it all in at once. I think I need a bigger spoon. Bigger spoon will help you get the dough balls. Think big. That is looking pretty good at the moment. There's still a few more in there, but I'm just going to put in the porridge or oats. Quick oats. That's 350 grams. And I get a bit gummy. That's alright, don't worry about it. Just make sure you didn't have any dry balls of grain. Dough balls as they're called. Try not to take too long. I reckon we're looking pretty good. I'll just take a temperature and see how close we got. .64. See, we could go a little bit warmer, although we'll probably be alright at 64. I might just boil a little bit of hot water in the kettle here, because it'll happen quick, and I'll get that in there. Get a lid on. The trouble with doing this, I'm going to be losing heat. I should be wrapping the towel in this. Actually, I might do that now before I put the hot water in it. I've got a towel set up over here, I'll show you. So I've got it sitting on a towel to keep the bottom warm, and I'll wrap it in this towel. I'll do it a little bit better when I put the boiled water in. Alright, that kettle's just boiled, as you probably just heard click off. I'll just check the temp again. Well, so it's evened out a bit, 64. I'm just going to add about, I don't know, half a litre first. The trouble is, the more time you stuff around, the more heat you're going to lose. So I'll add in half a litre of boiled, just freshly boiled water out of the kitchen kettle. See if that gets us any closer, or if we're just losing heat at the same rate of time. I probably should have just left it alone. 65, 66. See, that's pretty good. I'm just going to add a touch more. Just a splash. I'm not going to take the temperature again. I know we should be about 67. Put the lid on and cover her up as best you can. You can wrap it in blankets, you can wrap it in exercise mat, you can do whatever you like. I might double that up a bit, hang on. But that is going to be fine for a mash. Steep, but it's a mash. Chuck on the tea towel that's hanging around. I'll chuck on this tea towel that's hanging around. Anything just to keep that heat in. So that's it. That's going to be your mash. Or think of it as a steep, and don't stress. Don't bother about heating it again. Don't worry about any of that. As long as you've wrapped it up nice and warm, it should be okay. Now, in the meantime, get your fermenter ready, sanitised. Get your Cooper's tin in some hot water to loosen it up a bit. The boil's only going to be about 15-minute boil, and really we're only boiling the hops for about half a minute, 30 seconds. But because we've done grain, we'll boil it for 15 minutes just to help, sanitise and kill any bugs that might be in there. Back in an hour. Right, in the meantime, too, Christmas is coming. I've put up cellar dweller shirts, Homebrew Network shirts. People have always asked about this one. There's a version of this up there. There's a version of the AC/DC one I did. There's a version of the original cellar dweller ones that I don't really wear anymore because I haven't got any. And there's a few other stupid ones, just ones with beer and things like that on them. But I've kept the prices as low as I can. But there is a small profit, and some of that profit goes to the World Child Cancer Fund. I think that's what it's called. I'll make sure I write it up down here. It goes straight to the charity. It doesn't come to me first. It just gets taken out of your payment and goes straight to them. I'll leave a link below, and thank you anyone that buys a shirt. Okay, that has been an hour. We'll see how we're travelling, eh? See what temperature we're sitting at. Not that it matters now, it's all done and dusted. And we are at 63, 64, 65. I've hardly lost anything, look at that. Can you pick that up on the camera? 64.9, 64.8, that's 65 degrees, that's awesome. Who needs these fancy big contraptions to do mashes in, eh? So we'll get this back over the stove, and now things could get messy here. I might just grab another pot just in case. So here's a spare pot just in case I need it, if I burn myself or I want to put something down quickly. Of course you try to rinse any soaps out of these pots before you use them. But alright, so that hour's up. Let's lift this mash bag out. Be careful, things are hot. I would say there's nothing wrong with squeezing this bag, or just twisting it. Don't go too hard, you don't want to pop the bag, but might need your barbecue gloves on. Okay, we're just going to stick that in the colander like that, and that actually fits pretty well. Just let that drain a second. We might even push some stuff out of it, eh? With all that porridge in there, I don't want to make too much of a hard lump because we've still got to sparge through this. Alright. So I'm going to sparge with about 4 to 5 litres of water. Oops, making a mess of the stove. And just, I'm going to sparge till the pot's nearly full. I don't want it too full because I want to be able to boil it. As you can probably hear, that's the hot water running. I'm going to use sparge water from the hot tap. We have an instant hot water service here, and it's a brand new house, newish house, so I don't have to worry about contaminants from a hot water tank or anything like that. But if not, you could just heat up some water in the jug or whatever. You don't want it boiling, but you know, nearly boiling's good enough. Just rinse the grains. So here's 2 litres. Now I'm just going to be careful, I don't want to make too much of a mess. It's probably a good idea not to crunch it up too, compact it up too much at this moment. Oops, like I'm doing there. That was really stupid. I'm going to change this up on the fly. I'm having trouble sparging through here, as you just saw. So I'm going to put some water in here. I've put in about 2 or 3 litres already. And I just couldn't put the whole 4 in, otherwise it would have overflowed. Try and rinse some of these sugars out. I should have used my other pot, I've got another one of these. Wrong size pot to use, but anyway, we'll get there, eh? Nothing to worry about. You can see those sugars coming out of there. I'll pour that in there. Still room for some more. Excuse me, my back. Some more water in there. Put the grain in there again. So if you had another one of these, you'd be right. You could just stick it in and rinse the grain. There's still a lot of stuff coming out of that grain. I don't know if you can. Making a mess. Don't do it when the wife's home. Right. Squeeze that out. Let's see how much we've got now. That's probably enough. So we've got it in there. I'm just going to wipe up the top of the stove before I turn the burners back on. So now we'll get the heat on, get it to the boil. Watch it. It will boil over. It won't, just the moment you take your eye off it. You can put a lid on at the start to help speed things up a bit. but you're risking a boil over and it will get very messy and sticky. Hint for brewing inside, firm cap S, or this is a generic version as you might have seen in other videos, and you only need oops, so it's probably too much, but anyway. That just stops a boil over, or helps to. You still don't take your eye off it. Now there is a small chance of scorching. It pays to give it a stir. But also, if you're stirring all the time, it makes you keep an eye on it, so you don't take your eye off it and it boils over. I know I've said it a few times, but you don't want it to happen. We're getting there. It's been about 15 minutes. We're nearly there. 98, nearly 99 degrees. As I said earlier, the hops are up to you. Citra is always good. I reckon Galaxy goes pretty good in these sort of beers. And I'd use Cascade, but I must be out. But Centennial was super Cascade anyway, isn't it? So, I don't know. I'm going to go about 100 grams. The last one I did 120 and it was fine. If you can afford 120 grams each batch, do it. I'm going to go, what do we got here? Citra. I'm probably going to go there's comes out. There's 40 grams worth of Citra. I want to click over. And I'm going to probably do about the same in Galaxy. The whole packet. There we go. So that's 80 grams, and I'll chuck in. See, if it was Cascade, I probably would have chucked in another 40 grams, but I might just go to 20. So 100, about 100 grams all up. There we go. So that was my choices today: Galaxy, Citra, and Centennial. Turn it down a little, so we don't want it to overflow. Oh, here we go, it's coming, it nearly overflowed. This is all much easier if you pay for the $20 pot instead of the $10 pot, but anyway. Once it starts boiling, like not yet, hasn't hooked in yet. Once you sort of even out and starts boiling, you don't have to worry until you add the hops. Well, now we're here at boiling. I'm going to boil this for 15 minutes. Anyway, we've been boiling for 15 minutes now. It's time to turn the heat off. Now, normally for a beer like this, you might whirlpool. What I mean by that is by putting the hops into after you've turned it off and mixing them through. You might do it at about 80 degrees to try and stop getting some bitterness out of the hops. You're just getting flavour and aromas and things. I'm keeping this simple and it'll be fine. My all grain one, I didn't chill it at all before adding the hops. So what I've decided to do, I'm just going to add like a litre of cold water to this once I turn it off, and that'll just drop the temperature a bit. And then I'll add the hops in and stir. So we'll do that now. I'll turn it off. There's some cold water. I don't know how much I'm going to add. I'll just fill it up. I don't want it too full. Something like that. That will take some of the edge off the heat. I should have taken it off the hot burner. Put it on one of the cold ones. It's from about now you want to start being worried about sanitation. And so I'm using a clean spoon. I'm not using the dirty spoon that I was mixing grain with and stuff. And we'll just put the hops in. 100 grams. You could put them in a bag, another paint bag, if you had one ready to go. And give it a good stir. Now, this smells wonderful. If you haven't done this before, you need to. Alright, I'm just going to whack the lid on it. 15 minutes. Meanwhile, I've been heating up my Cooper's tin so it pours quickly. I've sanitised a strainer and my big mixing spoon. and my fermenter. So there we are after 15 minutes. It's smelling sensational, I must say. You can stir it again if you like. But don't muck around, don't leave it sit there. Let's get it in the fermenter. That'd be right. The camera wasn't on. All I did was strain this into the fermenter. I'm not lifting that up right now. You didn't really miss anything. I'll get a spoon, I'll just help it through. Don't want to be here all day, I want to get it through as quick as possible. It actually would not have hurt to have some cold water in the bottom of the fermenter already. I'm just going to pour some cold through that. It's probably not really necessary. We do actually want to get it down as cold as we can quickly. It always seems such a waste making beers like this. Into something, so I'm not going to spill it all. And let's get this cooled down, eh? Now I know that that's under 80 degrees. I haven't tested it, but I know after adding several buckets of cold water it's going to be. I can get the Cooper's tin in. Now you can use any of the methods I've used in my other videos, cold water from the fridge, ice, an ice bath, whatever you want. This is going to end up fairly warm, I reckon. I'm going to have to stick it in my ferment fridge to get it down to temp. I'm in a bit of a rush today. Only got a certain amount of time with the daughters at school. Mix that in. Look how green it is. There's the 500 grams of malt. I'll try and keep it in there and not over the walls. Keep an eye on your levels. I'm only going to fill this to 21 litres. There's 21 litres. Good stir. I did it at 21 because a lot of people only brew 19 or whatever for their kegs. It is better keg this beer, but of course you can bottle it. And because there's going to be a lot of hop residue in the bottom after the dry hop, I'll go 21 litres. Now we seem fairly mixed in. I might take a quick reading before I whack the lid on. Of course you can use a hydrometer, I don't need to, I've got my refractometer here. I was going for about 54, 55, but it's come out at 51 by the looks of it, which is fine. Now if I wanted to up it that other couple of points, I could easily chuck in a little bit of dextrose or a couple of 100 grams of sugar, and that will bump it right up. Just like say 200 grams if you want to go up a couple of points. But I think I'm going to leave it like that. I'm happy with 51. Cool, had to pour another beer at the end of the video. Cheers. As I said, that's my all grain version. Be interesting to see how this turns out. The sparge could have went a little bit smoother, but it's no big deal. All you need is a nice big pot. You can dunk it in or take your time by sparging. But as you saw, I was only about 2 numbers off what I expected anyway, 2 or 3. Which it's not even worth worrying about. So next is the dry hopping. Traditionally you'll dry hop twice, once during the krausen and then once near the end. I might keep it simple with this, and I'll keep an eye on it, and I'll probably have to do another vid when I'm dry hopping and tasting. But I'll show you what I end up doing and how it turns out. So have a go at it. Have a go. Yeah, the sparge, I mapped the sparge up a little bit, but it doesn't matter. Those things, little things like that don't matter. I could have just had my bigger pot Addy, my $20 one I keep talking about from Big W that's 20 litres. Would have had heaps of room to have the sparge, you know, to dunk that bag in and flush some of those more sugars out of the grain. But it's no big deal. The beer's going to turn out. I actually think I might, if there's people that can't get the ingredients, let me know. It's not going to be cheap. 200 grams of hops is probably near 20 bucks. The grain's not very expensive. And you know, yeast you can pick that up anywhere. Just let me know, and I could do something. I'll put it on eBay as a kit sort of thing or something like that, without the Cooper's can, unless you really need it. Just save on postage, you know. It'll be under $5 to post, under 5 kilos to post. It wouldn't cost much. Only in Australia. I don't think I could afford to send them anywhere else. Or you couldn't. You'd have to pay for the post, but still. Anyway, cheers. We'll see how this one's going to work out. It's going to be interesting, I think. A lot of people ask me to do extracts again all the time, and I was a bit under the pump here this week. I need to fill a keg. Cheers.